Well, I know Jordan always says that he tries to live as if God exists. There's still question. Everyone wants to know the answer to the question. I see it in the comment section on all his lecture videos, and I'll pose the question to you then. Does Jordan Peterson believe in God?
Well, I'll give the same answer that he gives, as you, I'm sure, know. He says, I live as if God exists. And in the book, actually, I argue that in a way that is a faith. So what I mean is, if you want to have faith, it seems to me what you should try to do is live as if God exists. And that is, in a way, trusting God. And in a way, that is already having a kind of implicit faith. And so if you live as if God exists, the next question, it seems to me, would be, well, has God, at least allegedly, given any sort of guidance or revelation about how to live? And so Peterson's answer to that seems to me to be pretty clear. He seems to think that Jesus of Nazareth is, if not God in the flesh, at least a kind of archetype of the highest and best that a human being can be. And so if you kind of combine what he says so far, so you live as if God exists and God somehow is revealed in Jesus of Nazareth, well, then the next question for me would be, well, what does Jesus of Nazareth have to say about how to live? And it seems to me that his message is really that we should love God with our whole heart, and we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And so that, it seems to me, if you start living that way, wow, you're really going far down the road towards what might be called explicit faith. And then the next step would be, of course, to say, well, Jesus talked about a church. So, okay, well, what church, if any, is the church that Jesus of Nazareth founded and abides in? And so, that's a question of explicit faith. And again, I don't know where Jordan Peterson's going to go with that. It seems to me that he's a person who's really seeking. He's a person who's after knowing the truth about things. And so it seems to me, if you're that kind of person and you really do seek and you try to figure out the truth, that you're going to move closer and closer to the truth. And where that's going to end, God only knows.
Yeah, I know Jordan has quite a cult-like following, and there are some really diehard fans that I think would follow Jordan to the ends of the earth if they, if they had to. And they may be thinking now, listening to this, they're thinking, well, I want to follow in Jordan's footsteps. I want to live as if God exists. But let's say these people, they don't believe in God. They have no religion, but they want to follow Jordan's way. They want to, live as if God exists. And they're thinking, well, where do I start? What would you say to those people?
Well, one of the things that Peterson says, which I have enormous respect for, is to tell the truth, or at least not lie. And I think that's a great place to start, is start off by saying what you think is true. And I might add, say it with love, right? Because sometimes you might have to say something that people don't like. And so you should try to, not needlessly offend people or something, but to speak the truth as you see it. And more than that, even to live in the truth. In other words, what if you lived in such a way that you followed what you thought was really the highest and best? What if you live that way? And if you try to live that way, as I try to live, it is very challenging, because I find very often, I have this kind of ideal, like, for instance, I'm married. So I think, what would I be as if I were the best husband I could be? And, I try, but I have to say, and my wife will tell you too, I fail. I don't always do that. But it seems to me to have that ideal is something very positive. And I think that even though I do fail often, I'm much better than I would be if I didn't have that ideal. If I just was like, well, whatever, and to try to be a good father. Again, I fail in doing that as well as I want to do that. But still, I think I'm much better than I would have been if I never tried that. So to live as if God exists, it seems to me, a way forward is to not only speak the truth, but try to live in accordance with the truth. And part of that is to continue to ask questions, right? To say, okay, does God exist? As you probably know, there's lots of philosophers who have talked about this. It seems to me that it's worthwhile looking into that and say, okay, look, what are the very best arguments in favor of God's existence, right? What are the very best arguments against God's existence? And then to think it through and try to figure out. I mean, at the end of the day, it could be that you can't figure it out. And you say, look, I looked into it, and as far as I can tell, I just can't tell. But then the question is, well, how are you going to live? Because, you can theoretically be an agnostic and say, I just don't know. But in terms of living, right, you and I have to live either as if God does exist or live as if there is no God. And so Peterson, of course, is trying to live as if God exists. And I have a big respect for that. And maybe theoretically he's an agnostic, I'm not sure. But I do have respect for the choice to live as if God exists. And so like I heard that he now, makes time to pray before meals and things like that. And I know his wife is a person of prayer for sure. And yeah, more power to him. I think that the effort to live as if God exists, it seems to me, would involve a kind of openness to trying to communicate with God, if there is a God, right? To try to get in touch with that somehow. So I don't know. I think that's a very interesting way forward. And I'm really, yeah, I'm honestly, I'm really looking forward to see where this all goes, because Peterson seems like someone who's on a journey, and who knows where the journey will end. But I for one am very interested to see where this all plays out in the end.
Yeah.